Yesterday, on his 80th birthday, Donald Trump announced the end of the Iran war between rounds of a UFC cage fight on the White House South Lawn. At that exact moment, 6,000 miles away, Russia was bombing a 1,000-year-old monastery in Kyiv with 611 drones and 70 missiles. And this morning, the Federal Reserve opens its two-day rate decision meeting in a world where the Iran deal exists on paper, but energy experts are saying gas prices won't fall for months. Three things at once, all connected, each one more complicated than the announcement version suggests. Here is what happened Sunday on the White House South Lawn. President Trump hosted UFC Freedom 250, a cage-fighting extravaganza under a custom-built octagon structure installed for the occasion in front of 4,000 guests that included cabinet members, Republican lawmakers, Dana White, and Mark Zuckerberg. Before the first fight, Trump walked out and announced that the deal with Iran was complete. "The deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete," he posted to Truth Social. "Congratulations to all." He declared the U.S. naval blockade would end and the Strait of Hormuz would reopen. Then the fights began. The timing was not accidental. CNN reported that Iranian officials specifically did not want the announcement to land before midnight in Iran, which would have put it on Trump's birthday. They got their way by minutes. The announcement came just after midnight in Tehran, which was still Sunday evening in Washington. The deal was announced as a birthday present on a timeline partially negotiated around the president's personal calendar. That is not the worst thing that happened in diplomacy last week. It is, however, a detail about how this negotiation has been conducted throughout. Here is what the deal is and what it isn't. Pakistan's Prime Minister Sharif confirmed both sides declared the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. That is a significant formulation. It includes Lebanon, which the U.S. had previously tried to treat as separate. The strait reopens. The blockade lifts. The formal signing is Friday in Geneva. Vice President Vance will likely attend. Trump himself may go. Euronews headlined separately this morning that energy experts are warning of slow oil supply recovery, and AP confirmed this directly in its coverage. Even with a deal in place, it could take months for oil and gas supplies to flow freely, because shipping companies and insurers need confidence that the agreement will actually hold before resuming Hormuz routes, and because countries that reduced production during the crisis have a long road back to full output. Let me hold that against what has been promised. The Iran war caused a 4.2% CPI print, the highest since April 2023. National average gas prices hit $4.50 at their peak. The Fed has been trapped for 3 months between an inflation it couldn't address through interest rate tools and a political environment demanding rate cuts. The deal was supposed to fix this, and it will, eventually. The question is the timeline between the deal is complete and the relief arrives. Energy experts are saying months. The FOMC meets tomorrow. The gas price that Americans are paying when they drive to work this week is the same gas price they were paying last week. The announcement changed the geopolitical situation. The supply chain has not yet responded. There is also the matter of what crucial details still need to be negotiated, as multiple outlets confirmed using identical language. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile, the thing that started the war, is not disposed of, transferred, or destroyed. It is deferred to 60 days of talks, scheduled to begin after Friday's signing. Iran's missile program is not in the deal. Iran's support for Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis is not in the deal. Trump said the deal results in Iran never getting nuclear weapons, which is a statement about intention, not a verifiable physical change in the 440 kilograms of material under the rubble of Natanz. The war's stated objective was prevention of nuclear breakout. The deal's actual achievement is a ceasefire, an oil route reopening, and a 60-day clock on questions that couldn't be resolved in 4 months of active conflict. That's not nothing. It's also not complete, and it was announced at a cage fight. While the UFC fight was running on the White House lawn, Russia was conducting one of the largest aerial attacks of the Ukraine war. 611 drones and 70 ballistic missiles struck Ukraine overnight Sunday into Monday. In Kyiv, 4 people were killed, a pregnant woman, 2 children aged 5 and 6, and 1 other civilian. More than 20 were wounded across the capital. 140,000 households lost power. Apartment buildings burned across multiple districts, and the Kyiv Pechersk Lavra, the Monastery of the Caves, was set on fire. This site is not simply a church. It was founded in the 11th century. UNESCO listed it as a World Heritage Site in 1990 and placed it on the list of World Heritage in Danger in 2023. Relics of medieval saints have been buried in those caves for 1,000 years. The Dormition Cathedral at its center, the cathedral whose roof was burning in footage broadcast around the world this morning, is, in UNESCO's description, a masterpiece of Ukrainian art. Metropolitan Epiphanius, head of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, said, "Another Russian crime against humanity, against history, against Christianity." In Kharkiv, 5 rescue workers were killed, not by the initial strike, by a second strike, specifically timed to hit while first responders were fighting the blaze caused by the first one. This technique, a double strike designed to kill the people who come to help, is documented as a war crime under international humanitarian law. Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko confirmed it directly. The rescuers were killed while fighting a blaze caused by an earlier attack. Waited for the fire trucks to arrive and bombed again. Zelensky spoke with Trump earlier on Sunday, before the UFC event. The Kyiv Independent notes this timing. The conversation about Ukraine's air defense needs, about the pace of weapons deliveries, about the diplomatic push for a ceasefire with Russia, all of that happened before the cage fights started and before the Iran deal was announced. Then Trump went to the octagon. Then Russia launched 611 drones. I am not making the argument that Trump caused the monastery fire or that his birthday party is directly responsible for Russia's military decision-making. Russia's strike calendar is not synchronized with the White House social calendar. What I will say is that the simultaneous image, Trump at a UFC octagon announcing a war's end while a millennium-old monastery burned in Kyiv, is a complete picture of the current moment in American foreign policy. The war the administration chose to end is ending. The war the administration chose to deprioritize is escalating. Both things are happening at the same time, and the photographic record of Sunday night shows exactly which one was on the South Lawn and which one was on fire. And now Tuesday's FOMC meeting, because the timing here is either ironic or instructive, depending on how you read it. Kevin Warsh, the new Federal Reserve Chair, conducts his first rate decision meeting Tuesday and Wednesday. The Iran deal was announced Sunday. The formal signing is Friday. Energy experts say oil supply normalization will take months. The May CPI, which printed at 4.2% last week, driven almost entirely by the energy component of the Hormuz disruption, was the data point that trapped the Fed. If energy prices normalize over months, not days, the June CPI is unlikely to show dramatic relief. That means Warsh's June 16 to 17 meeting happens in a world where the inflationary cause has been announced away diplomatically, but the inflationary effect is still running at the pump. His options haven't changed since last week. Cut rates, which Trump wants, and which would now be politically legible as a peace dividend policy, but which would be premature given actual energy prices and CPI, and risk being seen as capitulating to political timing rather than economic reality. Hold, which is what the data argues for, but which deprives the administration of any Fed-side victory to match the Iran announcement, or hike, which the rate market has been pricing in for months, and which would be extraordinary given the deal just announced. The AP's coverage this morning made a point that is being buried under the birthday celebrations. Even with the deal done, energy experts say it could take months for oil supply to normalize. The deal that should ease inflation hasn't eased inflation yet. The Fed meets to set policy on that inflation tomorrow. Warsh is being handed a birthday announcement and a supply chain reality that don't share a timeline. His job is to set policy based on the reality, not the announcement. What Warsh does this week matters beyond the rate itself. The Federal Reserve's credibility as an institution independent of political timing will be tested by whether his first decision looks like it was made in response to economic data or in response to a deal announced at a cage fight the night before. One outcome reinforces the Fed's independence, the other does not. And Warsh, chosen by the president who wants rate cuts, governing an institution historically dependent on the appearance of independence, has to walk that line in his very first meeting. 3 stories from one Sunday night in June. The Iran war ended at an octagon on the White House lawn, timed to the minute for a president's birthday, with crucial details still outstanding and gas relief months away. A 1,000-year-old monastery burned in Kyiv, while rescue workers were killed by a second strike designed to hit the people who came to help. And the Federal Reserve opens its meeting tomorrow to set the price of money in an economy where the deal that caused 4.2% inflation has been announced. But the supply chains that translate that deal into actual prices haven't been told yet. The announcement exists, the reality takes longer. That gap between the declaration and the outcome, between the birthday celebration and the monastery fire, between the deal on paper and the gas price at the pump, is the same gap this week has been measuring all month. The question worth asking is this: at what point does the announcement stop being news and the gap become the story?